Hello there YouTube, Devin here again, and today I have a special video for you on a new firearm I bought, and by new I mean incredibly old. I also, for those of you who don't know, have a wonderful love for Austro-Hungarian weapons, and today I'm showing you basically the first gun that was made by probably my favorite gun company ever. That would be OEWG. For those of you who don't know what OEWG is, it has a very long German name, which I'm now going to probably butcher, which is Österreichischen Waffenfabrikgesellschaft, which is better known by its location, which is Steyr, which is still a gun company today. It is still actually, believe it or not, one of the largest gun companies in the world, as far as like people it employs and everything like that. And it was even more so back in the day. The very first gun that they would be producing would be Werndl, that was started up by, well, it's the Werndl, W-E-R-N-D-L, pronounced Werndl because W makes the V sound in Germanic languages. And so the Werndl would be produced by the Austro-Hungarian Empire from 1867 until about 1880. It was made for an incredibly long time. There will be two long rifle models with variations based on kind of like service, and then there would be a couple different carbine models as well, which we'll go over. But today I have right here for you this is the first pattern. This is the model 1867 pattern infantry rifle, and I'll show you the difference between the infantry rifle and the Jaeger rifle a little later. And then there would be a cavalry carbine, and then there would be an extra core carbine as well. So this is the, as I said, 1867 pattern. It does have the 77 pattern update. So now Werndl's, there's a lot of different models, and we're going to get into how you could spot the differences and stuff like that here. So first off, the way we're going to be able to tell the two differences between the long rifles are, you can see that this has no spike that comes down here. There is the Jaeger model will have part of the trigger guard, which is a big long tang that comes down to right here. We'll have this big kind of pistol grip of iron that sticks down right here in it. That would be for the Jaegers or the light infantry, the mountain troops and stuff like that. This is the infantry model. You can tell because it doesn't have that pistol grip. That's part of the trigger guard. So, and then there will be, of course, the cavalry carbine, which will be side slung and everything like that. And then there will be the extra core carbine, which is short, but it'll be underslung and it takes a bayonet, whereas the cavalry carbine does not take a bayonet because they had sabers, obviously. Then in 1873, well, first off, I should say this one is the side hammer version. As you can see, a lot of these are mistaken for muzzle loaders and stuff like that, or conversions. These are built from the ground up to be rifles. They would have initially taken the 11.15 by 42 cartridge Rin, which is a pretty large caliber black powder round, very comparable to the day. It was center fire. It was one of the first kind of center fire standard issue rifles in the world, actually, using a brass case and everything like that. They later on in 1877 would be updated to the 77 pattern ammo, which would be an 11.15 millimeter diameter bullet with a 58 millimeter long brass case now to kind of increase the power, and the sights would be changed accordingly for both the long rifles and for the Jaegers. They would also do that to a lot of the carbines and the extra core carbines as well. So they would stick out for quite a long time. So now there's really two versions. There's the 67 pattern, and then there's the 73 pattern of Werndl. All four versions were made of the 67 pattern, which would be the infantry rifle, the Jaeger rifle, the cavalry carbine, and the extra core carbine. And then the 1873 pattern, which is basically a simplified, a little bit more durable, easier to produce version of this rifle, would be produced with a hammer that would be moved internally It would still stick out, but it wouldn't be hanging off the side of the rifle like it is here on the 67 pattern. It would have a couple other different little simplifications. They would make an infantry rifle of that, a cavalry carbine of that, an extra core rifle of that, and a Jaeger rifle of that. These rifles would continue to serve all the way through World War I. This would be actually a fairly common sight in World War I because they would drag these up, as most of the 1886s would have been converted to 88 patterns or 8890s, or sold as 1886 patterns to Chile. Chile bought a lot of Austro-Hungarian weapons, so this would be a pretty common sight. There's even lots of pictures of these going to the front lines in World War I as well, being used all the way through World War I. This thing would not be basically fully replaced out of service until the M95 would be adopted. The M95 obviously being Austria-Hungary's really famous World War I rifle that would continue to serve with Austria all the way through World War II. Would serve with Hungary until the adoption of the 35M. It would serve with Yugoslavia, and it would serve with Bulgaria until the 70s. This rifle would pretty much see its dying breaths in World War I. Both patterns, the 73 pattern and the 67 pattern. And a couple things on the cartridge. All the long rifles, most of them were converted to 11.15. God, this thing's heavy. It's like over 10 pounds. So most of the rifles would be converted to 11.15 by 58 rimmed. The carbines, a lot of them would be converted to 11.15 by 58, but you see a lot of them in their original caliber. And originally that 11.15 by 42 that the long rifles were in, the extra core rifles and the cavalry carbines were in a smaller round. It was an 11.15 by 36, and it was meant to be that way so that way it could be interchangeable with the Rastengasser model 1870 revolver would take the 11.15 by 36 cartridge too. So it's a shorter cartridge, it's a little bit down pressured. It's for troops that aren't really meant to use their guns first of all. The extra cores would be like the engineers and the artillery people. Your rifle's kind of your last ditch weapon. The cavalry carbine, that was supposed to be behind the saber. Your saber's still your primary weapon, basically going into World War I with the cavalry, which was kind of weird. A lot of people didn't really quite understand that, but they still had rifles that they would sling over their back, but for the most part they would be using their sword while on horseback. A lot of them would be converted to 11.15 by 58 carbines, so cavalry carbines, extra core, Gewehrs, Jaeger rifles, and infantry rifles. A lot of them would be, but you can find still variations of any of those found in their original calibers. Not all of them will be updated. They're not really marked anywhere that they would be updated, so you kind of have to know what the sights would look like. So we'll go over here, the rifle now. As you can see, has a huge side-mounted bayonet lug. This would take a big saber bayonet, as was standard of the day. Huge long cleaning rifle underneath, which perpetuates the fact that this was, a lot of people seem to think that these were muzzle loaders or something that were converted. This is once again built from the ground up. Your front barrel band, your rear barrel band, coming up to your sights. You can see the sights, they're all marked in Schritt. This is a tangent ladder, so for close range you would pop your sight up and then move it and adjust it out, and that would raise it up to here. The side measurements here are about up to 600 Schritt, and then all the way up on the ladder it goes up to 1600 Schritt up here at the very top. So standard tangent ladder type sights. Driftable by the little marker there from side to side for windage. The action itself here is a little bit weird. You would turn the rifle to half cock, which it's in right now. You would rotate the drum open, slide in your cartridge, close the drum, fully cock the weapon, and then this thing has like a 21-pound trigger pull, which is horrendous, and you just saw a bunch of oil spray there because I've taken this thing apart and cleaned it already. But we'll go through that whole process again so you guys can see it, how it would actually be happening. So you'll return the rifle to half cock right there, open your action, and now if you have fired a spent cartridge, you would tilt the rifle upward and then use your palm, okay, and you would hit down on this paddle right here, and you can see that kind of rotates the drum over just a little bit. And then at the front of the receiver here, you could see that little little bit of metal moving up here. If I can see out of the light, just a little bit. That right there, that little bit of metal, that is the extractor. So by pushing down on this paddle, you're forcing the extractor to pull the cartridge out, and then if you're tilting your rifle up, you have gravity to help you, and then you would just slide in your new cartridge. Then out of your cartridge pouch, rotate your drum back over, and fully cock your hammer. So this is a center fire weapon. It has a firing pin just like normal. A hammer, as you can see, an actual, what a lot of people would consider a hammer, and of course half cock. This was a very easy to use rifle for conscription troops. It didn't blow through a lot of ammo. It's incredibly durable. So you can see the tang on this rifle runs to here on the top, and on the bottom it runs down to here. It's an incredibly robust rifle. The most common breakage for rifles was obviously here at the wrist for a long time. This rifle, you really don't have to worry about that. It does make the wrist incredibly thick, though, for somebody like me with small hands. Getting my hand around this wrist, I almost barely can't touch my fingers together like that. That's how thick the wrist is. This rifle weighs close to 10 pounds. The sights on it are very tiny, obviously. Incredibly tiny. This thing is incredibly long, incredibly heavy. It fires a 46 caliber bullet, so you have to be very careful about that. And everything. It does take a soft lead bullet. It is black powder. Of course, there was never a smokeless update to these. They are quite strong, reliable actions. This thing was basically how it was tested and was convinced to be adopted by the military over the Werndl, which was a conversion of the Lorenz muzzle-loading musket. It was a breech-loading rimfire conversion of the Lorenz musket called the Werndl. This replaced that, and basically how Werndl convinced the Austro-Hungarian army to adopt this rifle was they came at one point to visit his factory, and he threw one of these rifles out the window of his factory onto the pavement, and then just went out and picked it up, and the rifle went off just fine. That's back when there was like cobblestone pavement and stuff like that, so he basically just like threw this with all his might out of a window of his factory onto the pavement and picked the gun up, and it worked flawlessly. It handled dirt and debris and dust and everything over and over again. It was a very reliable weapon. So you got to remember, you know, Germany's not adopting a center fire rifle as standard until 1871. The French aren't doing it until 1874. So way back in 1867, the Austro-Hungarians are having a center fire brass-cased rifle in this. It would once again serve all the way through World War I until 1918, and then it would pretty much cease to exist. They wouldn't really be surplus or anything. You would see a lot of them kind of just go into the civilian market as hunting rifles all around, and eventually they would make their way all around the world to where they're enjoyed by collectors today. A lot of them are in still pretty good shape because they are incredibly robust rifles. There isn't a lot to go wrong on these things, and they would serve for a quite continuously long amount of time. In the grand scheme of things, from 1867 to 1918 is about 50 years, and that's a really long time, especially when rifles are developing as fast as they did. Like I said, it would not be fully replaced until the M95, which didn't come out until 1895. So this thing still had like a 30-year run because they didn't make enough 1886s to fully displace these, and they didn't make enough 8890s to fully replace these because those were conversions of 86s, and they sold a lot of the 86s to South America, and then the 95 comes along, and that was finally enough to replace this and the carbines by the time the end of World War I came around, when they had made millions of them. So it's an incredibly cool rifle. I look forward to shooting it and everything like that, and getting some more cool accessories for it and all that other good jazz. I got it for pretty cheap, and I'm really excited to have it as basically being the first gun for my favorite gun company. I'm really glad to have a piece of this history, and I look forward to shooting it for you guys on video. So this video has been kind of long-winded and all that other good stuff, and as far as history goes and all that other jazz, and not really all that interesting as far as stuff to look at goes, but this will get a video where we take it apart and everything like that, at least as far as I can, anyways, in another video. But this is just kind of the first overview video, and letting you guys get a cool cool look at this beauty with its original stock and everything like that, and how good a shape it is in for the like $450 I paid for it. So hopefully you all enjoyed this video, and you subscribe if you like this sort of thing. It means the world to me. I'm so sorry I haven't put a video out here in over a week, because I've been having problems with Spectrum up in my area. It's something you guys can all Google, the Minnesota Spectrum outage. It's been multiple states wide. It's been a huge fiasco, so my internet has been very intermittent. It still is. We're expecting a big snowstorm tomorrow on the 14th here of January, and it's going to be kind of rough, I expect, for my internet for a little bit. So I appreciate you all bearing with me on this and all that other good stuff. So thank you all for watching. Hopefully you like, comment, subscribe, all that other good stuff. It really helps me out in the algorithms if you can't support the channel monetarily. If you do believe I am worth a donation, you want to see more cool stuff like this, like I have a bunch of stuff to sit down and sew onto this uniform to make it look not as plain as it does, which I need to have time to do, and all that other good stuff. And the money helps provide the motivation and stuff to do that, as well as I don't have to work as much. So, and as well as $1 a month on Patreon will get you into the Discord, which is fantastic. I appreciate each and every one of you. All of that money goes into the channel, back into the channel. So much so, if you've seen one of the live streams recently, my Patreon supporters, over a few months of saving the Patreon money, got me a lovely 4K webcam. I do live stream multiple points throughout the week. If you're interested in asking me any questions or getting opinions on stuff like that, I'm widely available there most points in the week. So thank you all for stopping by. Hopefully you all, once again, choose to support the channel in at least some way, either by watching the videos, liking, commenting, or through Patreon, which there will be a link to in the description that you can copy-paste right into your browser. Thank you all for stopping by. Hopefully I'll see you all in the next video, and hopefully a video very soon will be involving this beautiful girl here. As old as she is, being 150 according to the barrel made in 1870, she'll be 151 at some point this year. So thank you all for stopping by, and I will see all of you in the next video. Bye-bye now.